I first learned about the 90% rule a couple years ago when I read the book Essentialism by Greg McKeown. When he had talked about the rule, it was mostly applied to time management and more to like bigger picture stuff. But I've kind of taken it and adapted it to different areas of my life, things like decluttering, how I consume stuff, and then also the big picture time management stuff as well. So that's what we're going to be going over in this video. But before we get into that, it's time for an ad. Skillshare is an online learning platform with thousands of classes and creators. I've actually been using this for a couple months now before they contacted me to make this ad, and I'm really picky with who I do ads with. I try to make sure it's something that I use all the time, or I love, or I would recommend, like to a friend. And as you guys know, I love learning new stuff that interests me. And over the past couple of months, I've taken quite a few classes on photography, videography, like lighting, directing, all that type of stuff. And right now I'm actually taking a class with Greg McKeown in the simple productivity, how to accomplish more with less. He's the author of the book that I read a couple of years ago, which is kind of gave me the inspiration for this rule that I'll be talking about today. So it really ties into this well. So if you like the whole idea of the 90% rule, this is the guy who originally came up with it, and then I've kind of adapted it into more of a minimalist aspect. The first 1,000 people who click on this link will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium, and I would definitely recommend this course or a course by Nathaniel Drew. That was a really good course on like creativity and stuff like that. Now let's get back to our regular scheduled programming. In a broad sense, it's actually pretty simple. You look at each task or upcoming project and you ask, is this a 90 or above? You rate it on a scale of 1 to 100. And then if anything is below a 90%, it's a 0. If anything is below a 9, it's a 7, it's an 8, it's a 6, it's a 0. And what you're trying to do is find the most important things in your life and try to cut out as much of the other stuff as possible. So if it's not an absolute total yes, then it's a no. And when you start applying this rule to a lot of different areas in your life, it can make things very simple and can make you way more productive. The whole goal is to find out the absolute best use of your time and evaluate everything in your life and kind of ask, is this actually essential? Is this actually something that I need to be doing, I need to own, I need to buy? Or is it part of that other 90%? As someone quoted, I cannot stress the unimportance of practically everything. The whole idea of this is we only have so much time and so much attention, and when you're saying yes to one thing, whatever that thing is, you're saying no to something else. And when you make no decision at all, it's still making a decision. If you make a decision not to go out, then you're making a decision to stay home. If you make a decision to buy something, that means that that money can't go towards investing or saving or something else. So every decision that you make is really two decisions, or even non-decisions are also decisions. I just said decisions way too many times, but I think you get the idea. So let's go over how I've kind of taken this rule and adapted it towards my minimalist journey that I've been on here. If you go through your closet or you're decluttering anything, you kind of ask that same question, is this a 90 or above? Is this a 9 or above? And that way, everything you have left, once you actually apply that rule, is your favorite stuff. Think of if everything that you owned was your absolute favorite shirt, your absolute favorite jeans, your absolute favorite like dishes, and like everything that you own throughout your house is gonna be totally necessary. So maybe you don't get a lot of enjoyment out of it, but you kind of need a couch, or it's gonna be something that you love and you get rid of all that stuff that you don't love. And when you can kind of force yourself to follow that rule of like, this is an 80%, I pretty much like it, but I don't love it, then you just kind of let it go. So even some of those other minimalist questions that we ask, maybe have I used this in the last 90 days, or will I use it in the next 90 days, or can I replace this for under $20 in under 20 minutes? Like, some of those questions are great and they're definitely useful, but you also want to ask those questions, is this my favorite thing? Is this absolutely necessary? Is this a 9 or above? And I think that question's really, really important, because maybe you will use it, once in the next 90 days, but do you need to use it? And would you just be, as happy using something else? So that's been something that's really been helping me as we declutter, just kind of saying like, it's going to be clear if I want to keep this. And if it's not clear and I have to think about it, then it's probably a no, just donate it. It can help somebody else, and you don't need all these options and all this stuff. It's that whole idea of less but better. Time management. So this is something that I use a lot, and there's been a lot of opportunities that have kind of presented themselves, and I had a lot of different avenues that I could go down over the past couple of years, and there's more and more opportunities, and there's always people asking, can I have, a 10-minute phone call? Can we meet for lunch? Can you do, this thing? Can you do this project? And at some point, every time you're saying yes to that, you're not working, you're not helping your family, you're not making a bigger impact. So I've been going with all of those. If it's not something that I'm really excited about doing and I actually want to do, and I know it's super important, then I have to say no to a lot of those things. It's that whole idea of you can either do a few things really well, or you can do a bunch of things, but you're not that great of anything. It's like that way with sometimes like construction workers, where you might be a jack of all trades, but a master of none. Yes, they can do this stuff, but you don't really want them doing any high-end work because, they're probably not that skilled at it, but they can fix all the little stuff. If you take that analogy even further, if you are a jack of all trades and you do all this little stuff, that might be good, but you might not be able to get as much money for your time as if you are a master. If you took one of those and you just mastered it, and you could charge a premium for your time because you're really good at that one skill, and just instead of just like kind of dabbling in all the other ones and you're never that great at any of them. That doesn't just apply to construction, it applies to a lot of stuff. When I was doing real estate and YouTube and like all these other things, I wasn't very good at any of them. I was getting overwhelmed. I was working all the time, but nothing important was getting done. I wasn't really good at any of them. When I narrowed it down and focused on just a few things and really bettering myself at those, I saw like the progression just skyrocket and things really got a lot better. Even though I was making less money and like all these other things, I was getting a lot better at the work. And in the end, that ended up being the right decision for me. Consumption. So this actually has a couple parts to it. The first one is when you buy something. It's very easy to talk yourself into something being a 9 or 10 when you're at the store and you think you're gonna love whatever it is. But when you step back a little bit, you realize that it's not actually a 9 or 10. Maybe it was a 6 and you talked yourself into it. So just being very cautious, especially when you're about to spend money. Is this something that I absolutely need, or is this something that I am gonna love and it's gonna be, my top 10%? I'm gonna love to use this all the time. And also going back to the decluttering, I also ask myself when I'm decluttering is not only like, will this fit again, or will I use this again, but would I actually physically spend money on this again? Would I buy it again? Is a great question when you're decluttering. But if you're trying to save money, you're trying to budget, you're trying to save up and start investing so you can get out of your job that you don't like or something. Every time you spend money, you're making that choice. If you spend money on going out to eat and getting that latte every day and like all those other things, then that choice is making the other choice that I'm gonna stay at my job a day longer, 2 days longer, a week longer, a month longer, depending on how many of those other choices that you make. So that's something that really helped me stop spending money and stop consuming things. Is every time I spent money, I literally have to stay at my job that I didn't like longer and longer and longer. So that made me very frugal, and also just like stop consuming a bunch of unnecessary stuff. Like if it actually is a 9 or a 10, then you should be happy to give your money to it, because that's gonna be an awesome experience. But if it's a 6, then it's just an okay experience and it's taking your hard-earned money away. Thank you guys for watching and commenting and subscribing and hitting the little bell thing, because it does make a difference. So apparently there's a lot of tea drinkers out there that I didn't know about. There's a lot of them. So cheers to you guys. Where's my cup? All right, I'm gonna turn this off now.